My whole life is focused on keeping her as well as I possibly can. I've had to give up my film career.
They say Chuck Norris doesn't sleep. He waits. They say death is afraid of Chuck Norris. For decades, the internet turned him into a god. He was a man who could slam a revolving door. He was Walker, Texas Ranger, the lawman who solved every problem with a roundhouse kick. To a generation of Americans, he was the ultimate symbol of strength, unbreakable, unshakable, invincible. But today, in late 2025, at 85 years old, the man who could defeat any army is fighting a battle that fists cannot win. And he is doing it in total silence. Chuck Norris didn't retire because he got old. He didn't disappear from Hollywood because he lost his edge or his box office appeal. He vanished because of a tragedy that happened inside a sterile hospital room. A tragedy that nearly took the one thing he loves more than fighting, his wife, Gena. While the world was making jokes about how tough he was, Chuck Norris was living a nightmare that no meme could capture. He was sleeping on a cramped couch in a hospital room for months on end. He was reading dense medical journals by flashlight in the middle of the night. He was fighting a massive billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry that refused to listen. He looked at the producers of his hit show. He looked at the fame, the millions of dollars on the table, and the adoration of the crowd. And he said two words that shocked the industry. I quit. Why? Because his wife was dying right in front of his eyes. And the doctor said it was all in her head. Today, we uncover the heartbreaking, infuriating true story of Chuck Norris. We expose a medical scandal that changed his life forever, the fortune he burned through to save her, and the quiet, heroic sacrifice of a husband who proved that real strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about how long you can hold on when your world is falling apart. This is not an action movie. This is the fight of his life. To understand the magnitude of the sacrifice, we have to go back to 2013. Chuck and Gena Norris were on top of the world. They lived on their sprawling ranch in Navasota, Texas. They had healthy twins. They were the picture of American success. Gena, a vibrant, energetic woman in her 50s, was the bedrock of the family. But then, she went in for a routine checkup. Doctors wanted to scan her for rheumatoid arthritis. It was supposed to be safe. It was supposed to be standard procedure. They prescribed a series of MRI scans. And with those scans, they injected her with a contrast dye containing a heavy metal called gadolinium. Don't worry, the technician said. It will flush out of your system in a few hours. It's harmless. They were wrong. Dead wrong. Within hours of the injection, the nightmare began. IT didn't start with a cough or fever. It started with fire. Gena described it as if someone had poured hydrochloric acid into her veins. It started in her gut and spread like a wildfire through her body. Her skin burned to the touch. Her joints locked up. The toughest man alive stood by her bedside, helpless, as he watched his vibrant wife deteriorate with terrifying speed. Week by week, she withered. She couldn't swallow food. She couldn't breathe without laboring. Her cognitive functions began to fog. She lost 15 pounds, then 20. She became a skeleton writhing in pain. And here is where the tragedy turns into outrage when Chuck rushed her to the emergency room. When he demanded answers, the medical establishment turned their backs on him. They ran tests. They looked at charts. And they told him the same thing, over and over again. Everything looks normal, Mr. Norris. It's probably just stress. It's menopause. It's all in her head. Imagine the rage. You are watching the person you love die, screaming in agony, and the experts are telling you she is imagining it. But Chuck Norris knows a fight when he sees one. He looked into his wife's eyes, and he saw the truth. He knew this wasn't stress. He knew she was being poisoned. He realized that if he didn't step up, if he didn't become her doctor, her nurse, and her bodyguard, she would be dead by Christmas. So he made a decision that to find his legacy, he didn't just take a break. He torched his career. He walked away from movie offers. He walked away from appearances. He moved his entire life into the hospital. He later said, "My whole life right now is about keeping her alive. I believe this issue is so important that I gave up my film career to focus on Gena." It was a gamble. He was trading his legacy as an actor for a chance to save her. And he didn't hesitate for a second. What followed was a 5-month vigil that tested the limits of human endurance. Gena was bedridden, hooked up to IVs 24 hours a day. The burning in her body was so intense that she couldn't tolerate ice packs, and she couldn't tolerate heat. She just lay there, trapped in a nervous system that was firing pain signals constantly. Chuck never left. This is the image of Chuck Norris we need to remember. Not the guy roundhouse kicking a villain, but the 73-year-old man sleeping on an uncomfortable hospital recliner, waking up every hour to check her vitals, feeding her liquids with a spoon because she was too weak to lift a glass. He became an expert on gadolinium toxicity overnight. He scoured medical journals from around the world. He reached out to alternative medicine clinics in Nevada and even China. They spent over $2 million of their own money on treatments that insurance companies refused to cover. Chelation therapy, stem cell treatments, hyperbaric chambers. They tried everything to pull the heavy metals out of her body. IT was a slow, grueling war of attrition. There were nights, dark, quiet nights in the hospital wing, when Chuck, the man who never cried on camera, broke down. He admitted later that his greatest fear was waking up one morning and finding the bed next to him empty. He prayed. He is a man of deep faith, and in those months his faith was the only thing standing between him and despair. He read the Psalms to her while she slept. He held her hand when the pain was too much to bear. This vulnerability, this quiet devotion, makes him more of a hero than Walker. Texas Ranger ever was at IN movies. The hero saves a day in 90 minutes. In real life, saving someone takes months, years of patience, money, and agonizing uncertainty. And slowly, miraculously, the tide began to turn. The treatment started to work. The fire in her veins began to cool. The Gena he knew started to come back to him, one small piece at a time. Why did he do it? Why was he so ready to sacrifice everything? To understand the man at 85, you have to look at the boy he was at 10 that we built a myth around Chuck Norris. But the reality is far more impressive. Born Carlos Ray Norris in Oklahoma in 1940, he wasn't born a fighter. He was a shy, unathletic, half-Cherokee kid who was bullied relentlessly. His father was an alcoholic who abandoned the family. From a young age, Chuck had to step up. He had to be the man of the house for his mother and his younger brothers. He didn't learn martial arts to beat people up. He learned it to protect. He joined the Air Force to find discipline. He found karate in Korea to find confidence. Throughout his life, he has always been a protector, whether it was teaching martial arts to inner-city kids or visiting troops in Iraq. His strength was always in service of others. But he was also a man who had known loss. He had seen his brother killed in Vietnam. He knew how fragile life could be. When he met Gena O'Kelly in 1997, he knew he had found his harbor. In his autobiography, he wrote that she was the other half of his soul. So when that other half was threatened, the action star disappeared. The celebrity vanished, and the protector stepped forward. He didn't care about the fame. He didn't care if Hollywood forgot him. He only cared that Gena remembered him when she woke up. This is the difference between a movie star and a man. A movie star worries about his Q rating. A man worries about his wife. And in doing so, he exposed a dark truth about the medical industry. After Gena recovered, they didn't just go back to their ranch and hide. They sued. They filed lawsuits against the pharmaceutical companies, not because they needed the money, they had plenty, but because they wanted to scream a warning to the rest of us. They wanted to tell the world, ask questions. Don't blindly trust. Protect your family. Chuck used his remaining fame as a megaphone. He went on talk shows, not to promote a movie, but to talk about heavy metal poisoning. He turned his personal tragedy into a crusade to save lives he would never meet. Fast forward to late 2025. Chuck Norris is 85 years old. Gena survived. She is walking. She is living. But the battle left scars. They both know that life is fragile. They now live a quiet, secluded life on their ranch in Navasota, Texas. They run their bottled water company, C-Force, which they founded on their own land. But Chuck is different now. He rarely does interviews. He has effectively retired from the screen. Recent photos show a man who has aged. The beard is white. The movement is slower. The eyes are kinder, less intense till the outside world. It looks like he faded away. But look closer. When you see him with Gena in 2025, You see a different kind of strength. You see him holding her hand to help her down the stairs. You see the way he looks at her, like a man who knows exactly how close he came to losing her. He gave up the spotlight to save her life. And if you ask him today, he will tell you it was the easiest trade he ever made. I lost my career, he might say, but I kept my life. At 85, he isn't fighting bad guys in karate tournaments. He isn't jumping out of helicopters. He is fighting for his wife's health. Every single day, he is fighting to maintain the peace they built together after the storm. He is a reminder to all of us that true masculinity isn't about being tough. It's about being there. It's about sacrifice. It's about knowing when to stop fighting the world and start fighting for your home. Chuck Norris is 85 years old. The memes will live forever. The jokes will always be funny. Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the earth down. But the truth is much more powerful than the fiction. He is a man who looked at the bright lights of Hollywood, the most addictive drug in the world, and turned them off just so he could sit in the dark and hold his wife's hand when she was afraid. He is a man who proved that the strongest muscle in the body isn't the bicep. It isn't the fist. It's the heart. He conquered the martial arts world. He conquered the box office. And in the end, he conquered his own ego to save the woman he loved. So, the next time you see a Chuck Norris joke, laugh. But remember the reality. Remember the man who gave up everything for love. And remember the woman who fought her way back from the brink to stand beside him. Did you know the true story behind Chuck Norris's disappearance? If you respect a man who put his family before his fame, type respect in the comments below. Share this video to spread the warning about MRI safety that Chuck fought so hard to share. You might save a life. Subscribe to The Seventh Lens. We honor the real heroes, the ones who fight for love. God bless you, Chuck and Gena.